Dunn of XLTM Group, Shan Hanif of GenFlow, and serial entrepreneur True Pal. There is an opportunity to ask questions during the session, so if you have a question you'd like to ask, you can pop this in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to answer these to our task force members throughout the session. Before we start, I'd like to alert our listeners to a trigger warning. During this session, there may be some sensitive conversations around mental health, so if you feel the need to switch off at any time, then please do so. And with that, we will start the conversation and start with some introductions. So I will come to you in the order that you appear on my screen. So Mike, if we could hear from you first, please.
Morning, everyone. How are we doing? You all okay? Great to meet you all. So my name's Mike Dunn. I'm the Managing Director and Founder of XLTM Group. To give you a brief overview of the business and what we do, we specialise in construction-specific telemarketing and lead generation. The company's been going since January 2020, set up just before lockdown hit. Fast forward to now, it's gone from just being me and my own in my back bedroom to a team of 22 of us. We basically work with anyone that has a product or service that falls into the construction sector or built environments. So it doesn't sound too glamorous, but we're trying to break the mold of how telemarketing is portrayed, if you like.
Fantastic. And Kat?
Hi guys, so I'm Kat. I'm the founder of GBEA, which is an eco-conscious but slightly naughty, slightly playful yoga mat and equipment brand. But to me, it's so much more than that. That's why this conversation is really relevant. It's a community, and the phrase that sort of ripples throughout everything we do is just come as you are. It does not matter where your head is at, where your body's at, anything at all. It's just all about acceptance. The brand started 6 years ago. We're now a global business with a team in the USA as well as in the UK. And we've done some pretty rad collaborations, which I never think about until I'm on something like this. And then I'm like, no, stop it. Did we really pull that off? But somehow we work with Sweaty Betty, Oliver Bonas, Anthropology, the EDM band Above and Beyond, which also has an interesting mental health link, which I could get onto later. And my most proud one to date, because I am a Red through and through, Liverpool FC. And again, that's linked. Oh, sorry, Mike. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Okay. That also started from trying to support mental health and see the link between football and yoga and mindfulness and well-being, and just try and find doorways into new communities where we can really share the Yoga ethos.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kat. Shan, can I come to you next, please?
Yeah, how's it going, everyone? Nice to meet you. Yeah, I guess I'll just quickly top line, I guess, my story. Growing up, I've always been an entrepreneur. I've been buying and selling things since early as I could remember. In my culture, going to university and getting education is all you're told. So that's what I did. Realized it's not for me. I decided to start my own business, which was 2016. I saw the whole influencer craze and what's going on. I understood if you have an audience, that's the hardest thing as any business. With the guys here, I'm sure they know the same. Getting customers and more clients is pretty much the main thing that's going to grow your business. So when I saw people have these massive followings, I thought there's an opportunity here that they could set up their own businesses. And I started a company called GenFlow. And yeah, I've been on this journey now since 6 to 7 years. Grown the team to about 100 plus. I've raised money a bunch of times. And so today I help essentially people that you follow on YouTube, on Instagram. I help them set up their own business. And we do everything that is needed behind the scenes for that, from yoga brands to all different other types of stuff we do. And I guess, my journey, my own personal journey through mental health has just been kind of going against the grain when like family, friends, everyone thinks, what am I doing? Quitting my job to not having any money to wanting to do something on myself and being able to get through that, being mentally strong. And I see it in our clients because we've had many creators like pay for their parents' divorce to other stuff because they've followed their passion and built something at the back of it. So I guess I'm very passionate about helping people become entrepreneurs. And so I'm quite excited to join today and going through all the questions. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Shan. Chloe, can I come to you next, please?
Hello, it's a real honour to be included today, and I'm really excited to hear more about all of the other businesses as well. I'm Chloe and I founded the creative communication studio Buttercrumble. So we specialise in very playful graphic design, illustration and branding, and it's always with an ethos of making people smile. We've been able to achieve this for a number of community sensitive and family friendly organisations, including Chester Zoo, the Royal Armouries, and Mums and Papas. And again, I'm just really excited to be here today and to share my experience as a growing micro business. I think I really want to give that honest insight. No frills, bells, or whistles. I just want to share the real life experience of being a micro business.
Thanks, Chloe. And last but not least, True.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And again, it's a real pleasure being amongst so many great entrepreneurs. And I guess my story is similar to Shan. I grew up in a city area of Birmingham. And, you know, my single parent and my mother always said that the route out of adversity and poverty was education. And that's what I did. You know, school, college, university, graduated, went into work, had a great job, did events for lots of different companies. And but I always knew that I was an entrepreneur deep within. I was always buying, selling, hustling, doing stuff. And then I decided that I was going on my own probably about 10 years ago now and launched my event management business. And then everything snowballed from there. Then I went from event management into I launched at the UK's first kids spa. And then we got a chain going, which is called Candy Girl with that. And then alongside all of that, I have a social enterprise, which is a performing arts academy for disadvantaged young people, something that I didn't have when I was growing up. Just thought that it was necessary. That's quite a big team, and we really kind of transformed the lives of young people. And then recently, during the pandemic, I launched True Power Consultancy and Events, which helps other entrepreneurs build their personal brand and get visible. You may have seen my face in the press. I'm a regular commentator for Good Morning Britain. I've got a big mouth and I'm always talking about things that matter. And I just feel like being an entrepreneur, being visible, winning awards, and all of those great things really help with your business. And I developed some programs in order to help other businesses and entrepreneurs do the same.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all for being here and joining us. I can already tell this is going to be a really exciting conversation. So we're here today with Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and it's really important for us to highlight that and show the importance to our community. So let's kick off the conversation with mental health and wellbeing is something that has always been around, but since the pandemic, we've seen more people become more open of how it can affect them in the workplace. Have you noticed any changes to the well-being of your employees during and since the pandemic? Is there anyone that'd like to start, or should I? True, should I come to you first?
I don't want to go first.
Yeah, was you going to go, Kat?
No, just like it's that little awkward like.
So no, there's been a massive increase that I've seen, particularly amongst my workforce during the pandemic. I think for me, and I'm going to refer to the academy as it stands, that for us, we worked with a lot of young people. We have a team, and most of our management and most of our staff are young people, so probably aged between 20 and 25. And we quickly realised when that resource was taken away, because they're used to facilitating sessions every day of every week and they're used to meeting one another and so forth. So when we wasn't able to do that, they quickly became depressed and quickly became really, really low. And I say that because not only was they not able to meet, but we also took away their escapism, their art, which was vocal, singing, movement, you know, really kind of that's what they had to escape from everyday life. And we quickly realised that they were hit quite hard by the pandemic. So, and we saw a massive increase with, I guess, disengagement. We moved everything online, but there was a lot of disengagement. There was a lot of unwilling to cooperate. There was a lot of just not the young people just wasn't there where we wanted them to be. So we knew we had to do something quite quickly. So we hired in a online therapist, so a full-time online therapist, to help support with our young people, where people can, you know, anonymously book sessions, hourly sessions with this therapist, and speak with them, primarily for our staff members and also our young people. And that was one of the things that we did. Another thing that we did was moving everything online, and we facilitated kind of, I guess, talent shows online on Instagram, and anything that we could do to start engaging with our young people and getting them to, I guess, remind themselves of their art. And we gave lessons around singing and homework, and it was a real difficult task. And I think we needed to ensure that we were doing all that we could, to get our young people to really kind of feel open. We tried to create that trust feeling, whereby we were willing and open to listen to what they had to say or any of their concerns, and just being aware of kind of what was happening and how it was affecting our workforce, our staff, our young people, and the productivity. So I guess we saw a massive increase in issues around kind of mental health, and we had to really be proactive because it's something that we hadn't really dealt with before, and not to mention we were suffering, and I say that, and I can collectively say that as the senior leadership team, we were suffering also, because of COVID, and we had to manage our mental health and also be mindful of our employees and our young people as well. So it was really difficult, but I think we just done what we could and tried to survive in the best way that we could.
I totally agree with you, True. I think that the pandemic was a really interesting time because our connection was taken away. And I think that successful businesses, they're not because they're amazing at logistics or amazing at technology. It's because they find a way to truly connect with people, but also that ripples into the people that we employ. And when you haven't got connection, I mean, I'm sure I forgot how to use Zoom this morning. I mean, Chloe like emailing, panicking, because I think that Zoom, Teams, things like that made beautiful, amazing to continue businesses, but also the complete loss of connection. And during the pandemic, I noticed that a lot of people almost became their computer because it was our portal to the outside world. And I think that like through the lack of connection, but also just boundaries went out the window. I think that a lot of people, work became their escapism, and for a lot of people there were no boundaries. You know, there was no 9 to 5 anymore. It was like open to all. People forgot what day of the week it was. People would be emailing now on the weekends or in the evenings. And I think it was so important to set firm but kind boundaries, but also let your staff know that it's okay. You don't have to be working all the time. I mean, every day I count my blessings because people needed yoga mats during the pandemic. So for me, it was so bittersweet because I've got so many friends across multiple industries, including hospitality and real life things, where they really struggled. And it was just this bittersweet things of like Yogi Bear was doing okay during the pandemic, but then I really grappled with that personally. But it also meant that I was able to give opportunities to people during a time when a lot of jobs went under. But understanding people and not forgetting that people are people and human beings, and take the day off, work at your own pace, like flexibility, you know, and that they don't have to do anything with their day off if they just want to relax, if they need the afternoon off because it's all a bit much. One thing that we did implement were no external calls weeks, once a month, where we just had like little team check-ins, but no, we'd had a week where you could just actually do, because otherwise you do these back-to-back calls. And I found that when the world opened up again, it was very divided in people wanting to meet in real life and then still continue the Zoom thing. But I I know my team inside out. They're more like a family and friends, and just really knowing what they need is real life, and that nourishment and that nurturing. And to be able to say, Kat, I'm really burnt out, like, and I don't care. Like, I know that they're so passionate about the brand and what we're doing and all these mad ideas that we're up to, that for me, I don't care about working hours. We'll create together. Just take the time you need, because I see you as a person, not somebody to fit into a box or a schedule or a routine or a computer, mainly because I hate technology, so I shouldn't be in businesses that you guys are probably in.
I think a big one for me, obviously you guys all had teams, or the majority of you had quite large teams when the pandemic struck. But for me, I was on my own. I'd literally just set up in the January, and we weren't eligible to kind of any sort of help because we were so new. So I spent my time kind of working on my laptop just for days and days and days, just thinking outside the box, what can I do? Trying to send leads over to clients that were due to sign with us and ultimately pulled away. But I managed to find a balance between work and spending time with my daughter, because I've always on the road as a business development manager or in sales. It was always working for my family. But what I realized was actually that time with her during them couple of months I had was just unbelievably precious. And we became closer during that time. So whilst I didn't have a team, the first thing I wanted to do when I got staff in was, if they had children, I wanted them to be able to come to me and have the ability to say, Mike, my little boy's not well, my little girl's fell over, whatever it might be, and not make them feel under pressure, like, oh my God, I'm going to get into trouble for going to my boss, or I'm going to have to take time out my holidays or sick pay. And I just couldn't believe it was still going on, especially kind of, we are in an industry in telemarketing, it is sometimes frowned upon. But I wanted to break that stigma. So whilst I didn't have a team, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure that everyone could come to us, like you said before, Kat, like as almost a family, and say, if people come into the office and they say, oh, what's up, I've had a restless night. My little boy, one of our staff here, the little boy's got autism, my brother's got autism. I don't want to see her if a little boy isn't well, if they've got a problem. Don't stress about holidays. Don't stress about results, because we know you're a hard worker. And I think for me, during that time, it was about realizing what we have to implement into an industry that is frowned upon to break that kind of taboo, if you like, and take what we've learned from that. Like you said before, Kat, hospitality got hit so badly. And I had to look at my own self and say, okay, as other people in sort of worse positions, how do I put my own feelings into my business when I do take people on, and make them feel confident enough so they don't just feel like another number?
The nail on the head, Mike. I honestly, I feel like we base so much off archaic templates from like the 1950s, and we live in a totally new world with totally new challenges with technology in our lives anyway. There are no boundaries at all. And I think that it is so important to take a step back and think, if you employ people that are passionate about what you do and you inject passion and creativity, work will get done, and it will probably get done quicker, better, and with more care. Who cares if it doesn't fit in the typical 9 to 5? Doesn't matter.
I guess, yeah, I'll just add a couple of things from my experience. I guess, yeah, we were in a different situation. I guess the business had just scaled 3 times, and then all of a sudden COVID hit. So I kind of decided in that moment that pretty much everywhere you were looking, it was the worst news ever. You turn the news on, everything was just so negative. I took it upon myself to just be like the positive person in that way and rally the company together. So we ended up, there was a market opportunity. So I openly spoke to my team saying, look, guys, with the whole world and what's going on, we have a market opportunity because everything's moving to online, right? So I kind of created a team of like 10 to 15 people to let's go out and speak to creators, because what happened in our industry was all of creators' money just stopped because all the brand deals stopped. So all of a sudden there was mass panic. You can't pay your mortgage because your brand deals have stopped. So we went to solve their problem. And essentially, I guess I rallied my team on a positive mission, that there's so many people out there who are creative people, but all of a sudden their money has stopped and all of the things, the people they support and everything has gone to shit. That what can we do? So we essentially started reaching out. So I made a team of like 15 people, essentially don't do sales, but we all started to reach out to creators, to have conversations with them, be like, how can we help? One wanted to launch a clothing brand, one wants to do this, one wants to do that. So not only was that a positive focus for my team, it was a positive focus for people we're interacting with. And that in the end ended up being a thing we were all hunting for together. And it meant that it's work, and yes, you know, a lot of people were focused on work in those days, but it was something to look forward to because we were winning together in a world where at that time it felt like everything was going to go worse. You know, I'm proud to say we didn't furlough anybody. If anything, I think in the first COVID year, we probably hired about 35 people. So we were we were pushing forward, and I think I like to think that the team rallied around at that point more so than before. And I think just going to the panel, yeah, young people probably follow, you know, I think they felt the most, especially because their social groups are also within the business. So anyone 25 and under living in a room in London, all of a sudden you're sitting on a bed every day working, you don't even have a table. So we tried to like solve that problem. And so I think they felt a lot more. Older people that have bigger houses, they have an office room already in their house. It was very easy for them to slot on, and they were loving it, including myself, because I was with my family every day, with my daughter in a similar way. That was like, it felt like, you know, for the first 3 months, it's probably one of the best times I ever had because I was at home every day. Before I'm traveling, doing lots of stuff that I couldn't spend the time. So it was weird. I think mentally the whole thing was so strange because remember the first month of COVID was our best month in history in the company, and almost like didn't know how to feel because obviously that's a great achievement and I've worked years to get there. But at the same time, the whole world's going to shit. My mom works in A&E and she's she's telling me about what's going on, people dying and all this stuff. And at the same time, you're doing well. So it's a weird mental time to be. I think I realized that you can't control all the outcomes. I got to focus on what I can focus on. So yeah, I think that was like our experience. It taught me that I guess there's multiple ways. I think there are like reactive ways, which we've done too. We set up the online therapy. It's called a company called Sanctus. People book sessions, and we've done a lot of that reactive stuff. I've always tried to be a bit more like, I guess, proactive in terms of how can we communicate as a business and what can we do so we become more inspirational and motivational to everybody. I started a thing basically. We call it MGM. It's like a monthly Gemflow meet where I speak to the whole company, and I still do it to this date once a month. And now that the team's like 120 in 8 countries, it's obviously harder, but I still do it. And the point is the same, that my job is to inspire and motivate, not basically go through work and financials and how we're performing and what tasks do we need to do, like trying to keep it a bit more to getting people mentally aligned and focused on why they're here, you know, why and how can we help. So yeah, I guess that's what I kind of, my approach was during the time.
Fab, is there anything you'd like to add, Chloe?
I was going to say that I think there's always been mental health challenges for business owners and entrepreneurs. If you go into business, you've got to be fanatical about what you do because it is hard work. You are going to face challenges, and I think there's a lot of stress associated already with running a business. So with that in mind, when the pandemic hit, I believe that a lot of business owners were already very resilient and prepared to just roll their sleeves up and adapt to this new way of living. There was definitely the initial panic when the pandemic was first announced because it was such a big unknown. But I think it's been amazing and so uplifting actually over the last few years to see the success stories and see how our clients, our design partners, our team, everybody's just really showed a lot of empathy towards each other, and we've all been, it's all part of a shared human experience. We've all been going through the pandemic together, and we've just adapted to this new way of living. And I do feel fortunate actually. Our team is very close knit, so we've been able to carry that sense of connection despite a lot of the remote working, and we've been able to make a hybrid way of work effective for us.
Fab, and you've all mentioned you know, the closeness of your team and whether they feel like family or whether it's slightly smaller business. And I suppose as an SME with a smaller workforce than larger businesses, It's important to ensure that staff don't get overwhelmed with their workload. So have you got any advice on how you deal with that within your businesses, and how you ensure that staff don't feel that overwhelmment and potentially lead to burnout?
I have a
I think
proper
for me, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you start, please.
Sorry. Now, I was just going to say, this is something that I deal with a lot, which is, especially in a world where you're by yourself, like even till today, we're still remote. Like I think one day a week generally is how much we, work in person. So this is the new way. And I think what I found is that prioritization of your own work is one of the main things that people struggle with to then not feel so overwhelmed. That's what we have seen firsthand. Because before, when I learned, I was sitting in an office, and I learned, I worked in an accounting firm, so like the partner would be telling us, right, like this is what we need to go and do, and you had clear directions, you focus on that, so you always felt like you're in control because I'm focused on the thing that I'm doing. What's happened now is that now that you have a long list, you just feel like I'm never going to get through this, what do I do? And you just feel overwhelmed, because I feel it myself. And so I think the biggest thing we try to implement is just helping with prioritization and using tools. So like now all of Genflow like works through Asana. Every person's tasks are centrally managed. I hired a team, essentially we call it the delivery team, which is a team which is managing everything the business is meant to do. And they control who's doing what across the different departments. And like that, it's very easy to manage. It's very easy to see and calculate, like if someone has too much going on, too less going on, are we going to hit a bottleneck? Do we need more staff? Because resourcing, planning, and prioritization is probably the things that lead to the overwhelmed feeling, rather than there's lots of things you can do, like take it easy if you're feeling it or something, but it's going to keep happening if you don't fix like the why. So I've really tried to invest in like the why, and I would employ anyone that has that in their teams is to like break it down, that what makes you get to that point and how can you control it. So, and we've had to really focus on, so everyone doesn't have their own long list of notepads and it's not being shared and not being seen. Because when I hear that, first thing I say, cool, so what are you working on? What are the things? How can I understand it so I can then look at it and help guide and help you here? If it's in your own personal Evernote and you don't like to use any other system, it's very hard to then manage. But by collaborating more and being more transparent. So in our business, you can go in Asana, you can check anyone's task list. Similarly, I built OKRs in the business and anyone can see them for the whole business. The point is, the more transparency makes you realize that I'm not the only one that's got 7 things to do in one day. All of my colleagues do as well. That also gives you perspective. So I think just, so those are some of the things that we've implemented just to overcome that. And in remote, it's a way harder because you don't know what the other person's feeling. You only interact with them for such a small time. Otherwise, in real life, you should see the person get up and go for lunch or whatever. There's a human interaction, it's all gone. So you have no idea what someone's feeling. So yeah, some of the stuff that we've implemented, and hopefully some of those tactics help anyone else.
Dan, can I come and work for you? That was all wonderful. I think I have a proper hippie answer to this, but I run a yoga brand, so I think I'm allowed. I don't know if you've ever heard of the love languages, but it's working out the way that people like to receive love and give love, and then you can translate that into work. So if you start to understand that one employee is maybe showing like their worth by like giving a lot of like doing the do, but they don't say anything, they don't really interact on calls, but like the jobs are always tick 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 tick, whereas another employee might show their love and bringing loads of random creative new ideas and perspectives that you'd not thought. It's about understanding the person as a whole person, understanding this is the way that they work, this is the way that they show their love or their passion or their their love for the job, and reciprocating that. So it's like, okay, this person needs those compliments and to be told like that they're doing a really good job, a lot of reassurance. Another person might hate that. It might just be like, oh, it might just like not even register. Whereas they want you to make sure that you've done your part of the chain. And that's your way of showing how much you care about them, making sure that if they ask you to do something that you you prioritize that and it's done for them so that they can get on with what they need to do. And I think when you start to see and you really understand every single individual in your company and the way that they show they express their work ethic and the way that they want to receive that, it's like we share that all together. And I think as well, just really understanding the person, and like what you said, Shan, the fact that everybody has the perspective of how everybody's coping. One thing as well, which is beautiful, it's a beautiful problem, is we're very lucky that we get a lot of opportunities come to Yogi Bear, but it's realizing that like you have to take a step back. Sorry, massive bug. Oh, this is coming at you from the jungle, guys, and quite worried. There's a lot of creepy crawlies coming at me. But I think, just understanding the perspective, and you don't have to do it all. Knowing your worth as a small business owner and just saying, I am so grateful for the opportunity, but I don't have the capacity right now, is a better way than agreeing to do something and it causing a lot of stress for the team. When you have a team, you've got to be respectful of, like you say, Sean, their workloads, understanding their workloads, their best ways of working, and making sure that everything you do is still aligned with your vision, because it can be really easy to get distracted by like a lovely opportunity or a bug in this case. Really easy to get distracted by opportunities that come past that might not be actually physically aligned with where you want to take your vision. So yeah, just checking in, I think, is a really important one. Really understanding everyone. Thanks.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Fred.
Yeah, you can go if you want to.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah, fine.
Cheers. Obviously, like I've said before, ultimately Excel are a telemarketing company, so we haven't got the sort of these amazing tools that you guys can implement, but it's really interesting to hear. But when you talk about the kind of staff facing burnout and getting overwhelmed, in the last 2 odd years, we've grown so quick that even I've been a bit overwhelmed by what's happened. So I've got to look at my team, and some of these guys have been with us from the start. And what I've naturally learned to do now is basically just spend 5 minutes with them just a week. Every single member of the team, I sit on the floor with them. I don't want an office. And obviously, like Shan, you were saying, you're all remote. We see each other every single day. And I just, like you said before, Kat, not having people that just agree to everything. If I give them the opportunity to tell me, look, is it working? Do we need to change anything? Because I've worked in sales industries in the past where your voice isn't heard. It's just you say something and it's passed. You're just a number, and that's one thing I can't stand. Everyone in this company deserves to have a chance to talk if they're feeling it. If they just need to go and sit down for 5 minutes. If they're having a time where the workload is too much, I basically say to them, talk to us, let us know how we can help, what do we need to implement to do it. All these little things help these guys come to work on a day. They can bring their dog in without them to feel like they're going to make a mess at home. Do you know what I mean? So a completely separate industry trying to put a new way of working into it. And yeah, burnout, prime example in this industry is people all day picking up a phone and dialing, picking up a phone and dialing. I'm not bothered. I'm not interested by how many calls people make in a day. I'd rather them sit there, focus on generating quality and be able to talk to each other and share ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I agree with most of what everybody said on the panel. Particularly, really liked what Shan said around project management and making sure that it's all transparent and having a tool that people can log in and check. We use Trello across our teams, and everybody's very clear with kind of some of the tasks that they have to do and when they need to achieve them by. However, although there are deadline dates, they're kind of more penciled in. I really, when it comes to my teams, although we need to have deadlines, I don't like the idea of deadlines. I like the idea of working with the team and working to the individual capacity of what they can do and understanding when they can achieve it by coming and agreeing deadline dates with them, as opposed to imposing deadline dates and saying, "Oh, I need this by X, Y, Z," because everybody's different and works differently and at their own pace. it's really difficult when you are online. So we do a hybrid model. So we do have an office and we do have days where we have kind of go into the office. However, sometimes we have to do it on Zoom, and I allow people to work from home. I don't believe in 9 to 5. I really hate the idea. One of the reasons why I decided I wanted to work for myself was because I wanted to take my lunch when I wanted to take my lunch. I wanted to go into the office when I wanted to go into work, and I didn't want anybody telling me when I was hungry. So I allow my teams to work around their diets, their own individual diets. When they're hungry, they can eat. When they want to go for lunch, if they want to go for a walk, they don't need to clock in, clock out. We don't. It's generally I try and work to the individual, and there are some nuances that you miss from working in the office. So, for example, you're at the coffee machine and you can genuinely see if somebody's okay or not. You don't get that on Zoom. It's just log in, log off. So I try and make a concerted effort for people to have their own working time on Zoom. I allow for individual teams to, if they want to, log on the whole day, even if it's on in the background. If somebody wants to ask a question or say something, or if they're feeling that a task is quite difficult or they're feeling overwhelmed, then at least then the Zoom's on so they can say, hi, someone there, and have a conversation with somebody, as opposed to it just people just working in silo. And I think that might be a little bit difficult. I just think for me, everybody has different ways of working, and I try and really work towards the individual and their needs and who they are, as opposed to setting a template and saying everybody has to follow this, because I'm an early riser. I wake up at 5 o'clock. I go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. I'm back by 7 and I'm on my laptop and I'm working. Whereas some people wake up later, and I don't mind if they want to start work a little bit later and then finish later, and I would finish early. So it really is dependent on people's needs and who they are, and managing the workload towards their capacity and their capabilities.
Chloe, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I just thought it was really interesting what you said, True, about the lunches, because we've kind of gone the opposite way. So I noticed when I was working in agencies before I set up my own business, and I mean, this is more focused on actually being in a physical space, working together. Yeah, everyone had the freedom to go and get their lunch and things when they want. But I found that everybody ended up eating their lunch at their desk, and that nobody seemed to take a proper lunch break. And I think it's because of that presenteeism. If you see your colleague and they're eating lunch at their desk, you feel obliged to keep working and do the same. So when we're all together in the office, we really like to have communal lunches, because it's a really nice opportunity for us to everybody has to take a break then. We can all have a chat, eat our lunch together. Sometimes we'll go out for lunch as well. And obviously, if somebody needs to crack on with something, or they want to have their lunch at a different time, that's fine. But I really like to actually schedule breaks into the day so that everybody feels like it's okay to have that break and they get the opportunity to rest if they need to.
From what you've all said so far, it's very clear that company culture is at the heart of all of your businesses. So are there any practices that you've put in place to continuously protect the well-being of your employees? Are there any specific initiatives that you've introduced due to the pandemic that have worked well? Mike, should I come to you first?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I was saying before, setting up in the lockdown helped me realise that culture and people, it matters more than we've ever realised before. If COVID taught us anything, it was that our natural ways of working and living are not always going to work. We have to learn and adapt, and we have to grow with the people we work with. So the first thing I did is said, I want to get ahead of people and culture into the business. And a lot of people said, you're too young, you're too soon. And I said, well, hang on, if we bring it in now, we're not going to be 5 or 6 years down the line, and then it comes in and we've already set a culture. We're young enough to do it. So we brought in a head of people and culture, someone externally, to just sit with the team and say, what what do you like, what don't you like, what can we do better? Is it the chairs? Is it the incentives? How can we invest in you to make you want to come and work for the business? And it was eye-opening to hear. But also the one thing we put into the business, once again at a young stage, was that every single person in the company, and this might not sit with the mental health side of it, but it does in a sense, is that they get £30 a month in vouchers to spend wherever they want. Now, some people have children, we have part-time staff, we have full-time staff. There could be birthdays coming up, there could be holidays people are going on. And for us, it was about, okay, are people incentivized by a bottle of wine, by a bottle of beer? Is it money? Is it vouchers? So what we tried to do is make sure people knew that they weren't only just getting paid, and obviously we're a target-driven business in telesales, but it was to make them feel and hopefully let them know that we are going to support you either which way. At the end of the month, we're going to give you something a little bit extra, but also we're going to continue to sit with you. We're going to listen to what you have to say, because your well-being in this office, once you arrive here, is it's our responsibility to look after you. It's our responsibility to make sure you're going home thinking, I've been heard today. I'm being looked after, and my kids are being looked after, and my family are being looked after. And for me, it was all about how was my mental health with lockdown? How was I? Okay, now imagine people with children, imagine people that lost their jobs. We want them to come back to work and feel safe, secure, protected, and more. You have to, for me, it's all about investing into the business and into the people we're working with. So like you said before, Kat, we don't just become a family, but we become trusted with their families as well, because it goes further than just this office in my eyes.
I think what you said about trust is like the most important thing. It's, sorry if there's loads of crickets, it's just gone wild here, literally. I think honesty is the most important thing. Like, I mean, behind the scenes, GBEA isn't a big team, but GBEA was actually started on my personal mental health journey, and our whole ethos is, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, guys. It's an orchestra of crickets, but it's all about, like, it would be wrong and inauthentic of me to run a company any other way if people weren't free and able to be honest with me and just say, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling today, take the day off, I need more time off. Like, you know, I feel like we're so honest with each other in my business. So I would say that's been there since the beginning. And I tend to employ people that know the brand, know me, and we know each other well enough. We can read each other like a book, and they can read me like a book. And wrongly or rightly, maybe because I'm right there in the thick of it, sleeves up, so I don't feel separate. But I don't know, maybe that's just the new way of the business. Maybe you aren't separate. But I think something always to remember as the business owner is these people are the lifeline to your dream. You know, your team is the reason that it exists. Just as your customers, I hate the word customers, but your community is the reason that you can sit there and make all this whole brand in your bedroom and have the perfect graphics, the perfect website, the perfect product. But if you haven't got a community and they don't feel connected or something from your brand, what have you got? You're just a hoarder. So yeah, I think it's important to remember that they are the people that build your brand, not you. And I think you have to be humble, and you have to be accessible, you have to be honest, you have to be transparent. I never hide anything from the team, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, we're all in it together. Like, there's no untoward of, like, you know, there's been a major shipping crisis. There has. We've had a warehouse issue. We've got this isn't right. And I think that because everyone feels so part of it, there's no anxiety about being honest with each other. And I think that's important to me. So maybe not a strategy, but just a way of being.
I think one of the main things that I did, which I found really, really useful for my team and actually myself, is what we call SS, societal spaces, where we, I guess, really understand what's happening in the world. Because often when we talk about mental health, it's internal, right? But then sometimes, or more often than not, it's external factors that make us feel this way. So I know, for example, when, trigger warning, the George Floyd happened, my mind was out of it. My productivity at work wasn't there, and that was an external factor that really had a deep effect on my mental health and mental capacity. And I needed space to process some of those feelings, and work at that point just wasn't on the top of my agenda. And I think it's about holding spaces about issues externally that may affect us internally at work. I know when the Sarah Everard thing happened, and that really affected some of our female employees, and we needed to hold space for them. And when I say hold space, it could be you could have the day off to process some of the feelings, or you could speak to our therapist if you wanted to, or there was a right, or if you wanted to just come and talk about kind of your feelings, and so we can understand it a little bit more, then that's equally fine. When the child Q thing happened, so a lot of our young girls within our performing arts academy was genuinely afraid and upset and concerned. And again, it was just for us to hold space. It really is about being aware of what's happening externally in the world, and thinking, how does that, or how could that affect my employees, my staff, which in turn would affect productivity and their mental health, and what can we do to help support. So it might just be holding space for them to talk, to vent their frustrations, to to speak to other people, to process their feelings. But doing nothing, I think, aids to the problem. I think we have to be doing something to support our staff members when things externally may affect them internally.
I totally agree with you, True, about space, and also, Kat, what you said about authenticity. And I see both of those things as like, it's the culture again. It keeps going back to this company culture. These are the long-term things that you have to keep doing. Because I think sometimes when you said like wellbeing initiatives, it's a bit dodgy, because I think it can almost be like a token tick box exercise. You don't want your team to think, oh, you're rolling this out for mental health because that's the buzzword at the moment. The environment really does have to be open, trustworthy, and authentic, and the protection and the nurturing of everybody's well-being in the company. It needs to come over a long period of time. You can't just earn trust with someone overnight or through one activity. It is by giving that space and the authenticity, like you've said.
And just linking to the initiatives question, Shan, you mentioned about Asana that you've been using within the business. And since the pandemic, as well as the increase of mental health awareness, there's been an increased dependency on technology. So have you found this to be kind of a positive or negative effect when it comes to employee well-being?
I think for us, yeah, we love to use tools. I'll use software for absolutely anything in my life. So for us, it's been a massive thing, because normally software is solving some problem. For example, you could, in real life, you would have a meeting, sit down with somebody and tell them this and that, whatever. Or people used to do Zoom calls. We love to use a tool called Loom, which essentially is you record your screen and you can speak. And essentially means that you don't need to like disrupt people, stop them, bring 3 people in. You can do it at your own time, send it to them, and they can watch it at their own time. So just for me, using as many tools as you possibly can makes everyone's life easier, and kind of like at their own choice. Because what you hate the worst is, I'm going to do this, and a thing goes into your calendar for a 2-hour meeting. You're like, oh, for God's sakes, like I was going to do something and I've been pulled into this, and there's no control. So like removing some of those things is what we have done a lot of. The other thing we've actually recently done is a new platform called Hi Bob, which is like a HR software, and essentially really working on onboarding. So when you come into the company, how can we really spend time in the first couple of weeks so you understand our culture, our way of working, who we are, what we do, the different people, how many people can you meet casually, really making it like an induction process, like you go to a university before you start working. So I think, yeah, for me, I think it's done, I think it's massive. I think it's made us realize that technology can help us improve our lives, improve our productivity, efficiency, And that's what I guess I have personally found. And I think with the business from before, I think just to add something from the previous conversation was that I guess I have the context of now getting to a point where I no longer have the founder effect, because I can't touch and feel and speak to people. There's generally, when we have our days in the office where the whole company comes, I generally will meet people I have never spoken to. So now it's getting to this point where people don't know me, and I get judged on the back of that, which is very tough. The company gets seen in different ways. So what I found in the last discussion, the point is that how do you like systemize that authenticity? How do you systemize treating everyone and what everybody wants? Because when it gets bigger, it's just really hard. Because back in the day, I knew my team inside out. There was 30 of us. We went out together, did things together, and all that stuff that you just know each other. Like, and you're on one mission. You don't even have to say this is the deadline, because you're working to it. It's just going to be done because we all care and love it, and we care about what we do. It's just I find it very hard from 60 plus that now it's very tough to preserve that, because someone new coming in, when you're established, they don't have the love in the same way because they weren't there to build it. And I think what I've also realized is so interesting is, like, I remember we stayed in the office for 2 nights and we launched an app and it hit #1 on the App Store. But that's like a badge of honor that we hold, and the team that did it, we hold that because we did something which is unimaginable. But when someone new walks into the business today, they weren't here for that, right? So they never felt that connection, that thing that we did. So for them, you're just a brand new person, and in their eyes, you've not done anything. So they don't really think you're amazing or you're capable of anything, and you have to start again. I think that's what I find the hardest in this challenge is you have to constantly, somehow, everything that's like the history is forgotten in your culture, and how to preserve that is very tough. We've hired a VP of people. She used to lead all the people at Stella McCartney, then she joined us. I've tried to do it. I guess my thing to everybody here would be, we've tried to really bake in, like, when someone joins, they have like monthly reviews of how it's going. Then obviously you have like your HR reviews, and make them a lot about them as a person, not necessarily about, their job responsibilities. There's actually one thing that I personally like to ask anyone that I speak to is, like, what is your life goal outside of work? Like, what drives you? So I've started doing all final interviews in the business now, because I want to see the person that I'm hiring. And I like to ask them this one question: what's your biggest regret in life? And what are you trying to prove to yourself? And people always ask it in a career perspective. And I always have to say to them, no, I'm asking about you, the person, tell me. Or what drives you? And then I get some amazing answers like, I can now pay for my mom's bills, and it's the best feeling ever, and I want to make sure I can keep doing that. Or I failed my university exams or college exams, I lost my scholarship, and my parents had to use their savings, and I forever blame myself, and I want to like do something about that. It's like I try to get to the root thing, because what I found, the best employees in my culture are the ones that have something to prove. So I think what I would say is, like, it's about finding what works for you and your business, because everyone's different. And if they're not really going to work for your business because of who they are as a person, that's okay. And I think it's actually having that open conversation that, look, hey, what drives you? What are you really doing this for? And how does then this job fit into it for you? So I think, I just wanted to add that from the previous thing, because I found that as the biggest like conversational point. And it's hard when you get bigger to have that thing, because the truth is everyone's inspired to speak to you as a CEO or founder, but then they can't speak to you, and their time it changes a lot basically, and it's very hard to maintain that. And back to technology. I think it's done wonders, personally speaking, from every perspective.
Can I just quickly caveat what Shan was just saying about kind of winning, being #1 on the app? Congratulations, by the way. I think that's a small thing that a lot of businesses kind of fail to do. And by that, I mean, win an award. Stats show us that 88% of your workforce feel more valued and motivated if you win an award than if you give them a pay rise. And when you feel valued, and when you feel motivated, and when you feel like you're contributing to something, then of course it's going to have a positive impact on your mental well-being. And I think people really overlook a small thing by winning an award. And I know it might be superficial, and some people might not think about awards are great things, But for me, I know when we win awards as a company and I bring that little trophy back to the office, everyone's like, oh my God, look at what we've contributed to, look at what we've done, you know, and they can see a physical, tangible representation of their hard work. And that in turn makes them feel more valued as an employee and that they're contributing to something greater and bigger. So please, you might think it might be a small thing, but winning awards has a massive impact on your staff force and how they feel valued.
I
Yeah,
just think,
true. Oh, sorry, Kat.
oh, sorry, sweetheart. No, I was just going to say, growing on that, not just winning an award, celebrating all the little moments. And that's so flipping hard to do as a founder anyway. Like, we're always on to the next, on to the next. Like, and we never take a moment to think, do you know what? You did a pretty good job. But also your team feel that as well. So it ripples from your mental well-being through your teams, and just making sure always congratulating people when they have done a good job. And sometimes as the founder, like, we forget to do it to ourselves too. That's why I got it tattooed on my foot. Good job on my ankle, just to remind me. But I think it's important to celebrate everything and everyone, because hours and hours and hours go into even the things that maybe one part of the team, one half of the team might see as really small. But yeah, just noticing someone's little wins. So I like that.
Yeah, 100%. We won not even won any awards yet, but we won a swag pack competition last year when we had to put a video together for it, and I just thought I'm just going to get everyone in the office involved in this, and we went a little bit crazy. People throwing water all over each other, people throwing and it erupted the office. But when we won, everyone was sent hoodies, pens, cups, all this stuff. And what we did was we kept them. And now the day everyone starts the business, they get a swag pack on their table. So obviously since that time, we've had another 10 people join the business. But when they join, they go, oh, what's this? And they go, oh, we won it. Oh, well, I wasn't here. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. You're a part of our culture now. And we showed them the video of what we did, and they're like, oh my God, how do we do this again? And then, you know, like we made the final, we made another final the other day for the FSB Awards. We didn't win, but I took some of the staff this time with me, 2 of them, and they were like, oh my God, we need to do it again. Then recently we made another one. So now everyone in the office is coming, and now everyone that's just joined us. But I truly believe what you said there about the small wins. You've got to celebrate them. We did an award ceremony in December. The company was only a probably year old, and we did like this little award ceremony where everyone got a trophy for like clumsiest person in the office, best newcomer, biggest clown of the office, which unfortunately I won. But once again, that little feeling, even though that was from a company, people are like, oh my God, how big's next year going to be? What are we going to do next year? And you feel that energy in the office of when people think something's coming up, you see the excitement. But that starts from the guys who are here in that first initial video, getting our culture out there for them to see. And that's why I said, as a company, who are we? We're fun. That's our little thing, is we're just a fun business. We don't take ourselves seriously. We never have, because people come to work, they don't want to be serious. So that video, when everyone watches it back, they go, why wasn't I here to throw water all over him? Just little things like that. So yeah, true. And Kat, 100% agree with that.
I remember that video very well, Mike.
There's still water all the walls now, to be honest with you.
I'm very conscious of time. So what I'm going to ask for the last question from each one of you, and if we can make it super short and snappy, is one key takeaway from today's session for SME founders on how to create a positive work culture. Chloe, can I come to you first?
Yeah, I would say that we need to treat it like your physical health. So we all know the importance of healthy eating and exercise. It's something we need to do every day, not just a one-off thing. And it's exactly the same with mental health. It needs to be something we're implementing every day.
And Shan?
Yeah, I think, look, first of all, it's great to hear that others are doing similar things to like what we're doing, I guess, because you kind of never know. As a founder, it's quite lonely. So great to hear from the rest of you that everyone cares and is equally trying in their own way to help people. But it is hard, you know, that's the fundamental truth. It's very hard to, work with so many different people, different personalities, different things, bring them all together. But it's great to hear that everyone's trying their own unique ways. I think, I'll pick up on some of the tactics for sure. I think I'll just add that sorry, that I think it's interesting that mental health, I just wish we can take the conversation more to like what people actually want, instead of like how to fix like problems, basically, because it's just a different way of looking at it, rather than like how can we make like work, you know, less painful for people, in other words, but instead of like you should be like good in the first place, and just kind of aligning that they shouldn't just take a job just because it's money, basically, even though I know it's hard and for a lot of people, but like just that conversation, I would love to take the conversation a bit to that point, because it's doing what you want to do, because you should only do what you really want to do. If you don't want to do it, it's cool. Like when someone even like resigns from Genflow, I'm always like, it's cool, because go and do what makes you happy. It's okay. You know, we're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I think just that message, I think, yeah, I think we probably should speak about more. I think something that I'm going to work on more as well, that how do we, you know, allocate enough budget? How do we enforce that in our day-to-day working on like do what you actually want to do basically in life, so then you naturally find it more fulfilling. Yeah.
Well, thank you. True. Oh, you're on mute.
Shame. Yeah, I'll just go off what Shan was saying, and for me, it really is about being proactive and not reactive, and we need to stop reacting to problems when mental health presents itself. Mental health, I think, carries this stigma that it's a negative thing, and mental well-being, but you could actually have positive mental health and mental well-being, and it really is just being proactive with it and embedding it in the culture so it becomes second nature. So we're always mindful about, you know, what we're feeding our minds, and how we can have a positive outlook on mental health. But that will be my thing.
Mike?
Yeah, just following on to what the guys have just said there, mental health has got over the last couple of years, it's become the norm to talk about mental health, whereas it used to be more of a stigma to bring it up and people would be timid to, whereas I've struggled with mental health all my life, guys. I'm not going to sit here and try and deny it or escape it. The way I've dealt with it, and the way I would always advise it, is to face it head on and understand that people will talk about things when they're ready. It's our job as founders, as CEOs, as MDs, whatever our role may be, is to set the example that it's okay to I know it's all cliche, it's okay not to be okay, but is talking to these guys straight away. And like Shah said before, why do you come to work? What is it that you come to work for? Is it your children? Is it just a job? Either way, it's okay. But once we get into that and the monthly meetings that we hold, like we do here, you start realizing that there might be something we can do more to help. So for me, it's just about communication, constantly communicating with people 5 minutes of the day. How's it going? How's the kids? How's things at home? Is there anything we can do? And just kind of letting people talk to you and feel confident and trusting you with that knowledge, really.
And Kat? Oh, you're on mute.
It's just such an honor to sit on a panel with like-minded people. I can't tell you how refreshing and amazing this is. I think echoing what the guys have said, I prefer the word like sort of mental well-being, but it's something we all have, just like physical health, like Chloe said. And it's mental health. It doesn't mean we objectively view those two words as, oh, there's something wrong, and as Sean said, a problem. Not at all. It's a sliding scale, and we're all on it, and we all experience it. So I think my two points are, like, notice the individual and the person, and if someone is going through a season of not so great mental health and they are in a struggle patch, you know that the way to pull someone out early, like the guy said, be proactive, not reactive. The way to boost someone's morale and internal landscape early is to make sure you notice all the wonderful things about them. So maybe they're hyper creative and you really draw that creativity, or maybe they're a master at Excel, not me, but maybe they make banging spreadsheets. Maybe you've just got to constantly like really bolster the things that people are great about. And that's why I'm celebrating the little wins, really noticing them, or the little things. I'm really keen to talk to you more, Sean, about like, because as you grow, it is harder. And then the other thing is authenticity, not making this, like Chloe said, a tick box exercise to make you look good as a company. It has to be embedded within the company and who you are. And I know that a lot of founders are listening to this talk, and it has to start with you. And there's a phrase that leaders eat last. And that is true. Like your team, you have to value them and put them first. But often as a founder, you forget about yourself, and you can be carrying everything and everyone and lose yourself completely. And I think it's important to practice what you preach, and whether that's taking a day off here and there just for you, whether that's, I think as founders, this one last point, but founders, we become our businesses. And I think it's remembering that, like, at one time I grew little ears and a little nose and a little tail, and I actually became a Yogi Bear. And that's like, no, I'm Kat. What do I like to do that makes me me, and work? And I think as a founder, it's really important to remember and nurture those two aspects, because otherwise you become enmeshed and you can't really understand and then see maybe from an outsider's or a team member's perspective, because you're too enmeshed. So it starts with you and just looking after yourself.
Wow, what an incredible session. And I think the comments are reflecting that as well. There's so many comments that have come in, just thanking you all for the great advice that you've given today. So thank you for joining us and for sharing your stories as for small businesses. Thank you to everybody that has been on the session from the beginning and watched and joined us today. And also thank you to Vodafone Business. What an incredible session to kick off into the afternoon now, and hope everybody has a great day, and looking forward to seeing you on the next Disruptive Minds webinar. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers guys, absolute privilege.
Cheers.